Howdy folks, Nathan Adlin here for another episode of Ask Nathan, the video series where you get to call in, well actually you get to write in because we don't really have a phone and a live operator, but you get to write in and ask questions and we try to answer a few of them. Now I'm kind of alone today in the studio, everybody else is out at an event, so what I'm going to try to do is answer a few extra questions. So let's get started. A lot of you have asked, and this is a recurring question over the years, what are our personal vehicles? Well, I'm not inclined to tell you exactly what we drive as day-to-day drivers because we get these pretty much all the time, but I will say this, we have amongst the TFL crew, Chevys, Fords, Acuras, Hondas, Mazdas, Toyotas, Subaru, and Lexus, and Mini, and Jeep. I think that's pretty much, and Volkswagen, and also I think Andre is hiding a Lada Niva in his backyard and using it to, work on his mechanical skills and more importantly, his water fording skills. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. Sorry, Andre, he's over there off camera trying to be quiet. Favorite three trucks, 1500, 2500, and 3500. Whoever wrote this request has written it several times, not only on the video page, but also on our TFL car page. So, first of all, you ever have any questions about something like that, that's specific, send it to TFL Truck, all right? Second of all, I'm not going to answer it the way you expect, because I think a lot of you think that TFL, well, we all have the same taste, and we don't. Secondly, that we're going to choose the three major truck makers. That's not going to happen either. You asked my opinion on what I currently like. All right, for 1500 truck, currently right now, my own money, it's the Ram 1500 Outdoorsman with the Eco Diesel. I think that's a great truck and I would definitely own one. It has flaws, but if the new Raptor 1500, if the new Ford Raptor were out, I have a feeling I'd like it quite a bit. But it's not out, so I can't really put that on the list. 2500 Ram Power Wagon, bottom line. Yes, I know, two Rams. And then the 3500 Chevy or GMC 3500 dually with the diesel. Fantastic truck. There's your answer. You've been asking a lot. That's your answer. If you asked Roman, he would have a different answer. And if you asked Andre, he would have a different answer. All right, so that's just kind of how it works. All right. One of you was asking about the BMW X7 and whether or not we have any info on it. There's only a little bit. We know they're testing a X5 that looks a little bit bigger, so that must be the X7. But we have no idea what the specifications are on that vehicle. I can assume that it will have the same power plants that are available for the BMW X5. And I've been told that they may be making a four-person version of this vehicle, so it's like a stretch limo that has two giant captain's chairs in the back and then, of course, the front seats. But it's built to hold up to 7 people, supposedly. That's if they actually are going to do that. Rumor has it that that vehicle will be available next year, or at the end of next year, actually. So that's all I can tell you. Anybody else, if you have information to add to this, please write it below. Okay, main questions, and it has to do with this right here. One of you, and it's actually not one of you, several of you have been wanting to know the differences between the Fiat 124 Spider, which is right here, and the Mazda Miata, which this vehicle is based on. Now, first of all, main differences in terms of performance, and then I'll tell you about the daily driving. Those are the two questions you had. So, performance-wise, this has a 1.4 liter turbocharged engine. It's the multi-air, and it's the same engine that's in other Fiat products, including the Abarth Fiat 500. And in that vehicle, it's a fun, savage little engine, and it makes a lot of great noise. In this vehicle, it doesn't really make that great noise. It's kind of industrial sounding compared to how it could sound. And that's a letdown because it's Italian. You want it to actually have that type of mean sound to it. Well, honestly, the Miata actually sounds better with the 2-liter Skyactiv engine. But in terms of performance, they are almost identical. Now this one has a 6-speed automatic transmission. The one that I drove before, the Miata, had a 6-speed manual transmission. And I think that the reason why these vehicles are so closely matched is because this vehicle is pretty consistent in how quickly it'll get to 60, even up here at high elevation, where the 1.4 liter turbo will mitigate a lot of power loss, but not all of it. Whereas in the 2 liter that's in the Miata, well, that has a different type of power band, and up here at high elevation it loses a little bit more power. But with that being said, what was interesting is that the 2 liter in the Miata felt a little bit more lively, and it definitely immediately gives you power, whereas in this one has a bit of turbo lag. So in order to launch this vehicle and to keep up with the Miata, you have to torque it. You have to give it about 3,500 RPM to really go. But if you actually go that high, you might break the tires loose. Oh, and you have to have the traction control off. So around 3,000 RPM with the automatic transmission, this vehicle and the Miata are very close in 0 to 60 times. So I'm thinking 0 to 60, the best way to do this is get it up to around 3,000 RPM, let it go. And it takes a second. There we go. Now, it doesn't quite have the same zing as the Miata did. 7.98 on my first run. 7.98 on my first run. That's pretty close to the Miata time, if I recall. So there's that in terms of straight line performance handling. This vehicle is a little bit heavier. We estimate has about 100 pounds over the Miata. Remember, automatic transmission. This is also a larger vehicle, 5 inches longer, and you can really see it in the design. In terms of visually, I actually prefer this vehicle, but everything else mechanically, I kind of prefer the Miata, if that makes any sense, because the Miata is a little bit more of a sharpened tool. This is a little bit more of a mellow cruiser. You can take it down the highway and its ride is a little bit more forgiving, and yet when you go through the corners, it still manages to really hold on. I think that this is more of a vehicle for people who really truly don't need a track day car, and the Miata is something that you really could take to the track. Now, as for daily driving, that's the second part of the question. This is a slightly better vehicle for daily driving because it has a slightly more compliant ride. But with that being said, neither vehicle is good for day-to-day ownership because there are no glove compartments. There is no place to put anything. The trunk in this one is slightly larger than the one in the Miata. This vehicle has 2 cup holders that are right at your elbow, which is really difficult when you're driving along and you want to actually reach over and grab your coffee. The whole reason is they're trying to keep these vehicles light and uncluttered. Unfortunately, that means at the expense of storage. So if you're a single person who doesn't have to worry about picking up kids or dogs, yeah, sure, this would be okay, but otherwise, there's just not a lot of utility. Now, I'm pretty sure right about now, our buddy Emmy is watching and writing some horrible things to me saying, I can put my entire apartment inside one of those cars. You just don't know how to do it. And she'd be right. But if you do play golf, you will not be able to fit golf clubs in the back of this vehicle. You'll have to put them in the passenger seat. So there you go. Anyway, I hope that answered some of your general questions. I do read, as do the rest of the crew from TFL, read what is going on below. So please add your comments below and we will do our best to answer your questions. For the Fastline Car, this is Nathan Adlin. I'll see you next time. One of you wanted to know about the upcoming Mazda RX7 and if Mazda's made any announcements about it, and they certainly have. All right, Yuji Nakamine, who's Mazda's corporate global director, said no. They're not building that vehicle anytime in the near future. There was the RX Vision project and a whole bunch of other teasers out there and hints about rotary.